Hey everybody, today I'm going to be talking about the 1888 Scraps tobacco cards, which were actually not tobacco cards. They were the first ever bubblegum cards. Exactly what their origin was didn't start becoming clear until 2012. And here I have the standard catalog of vintage baseball cards this was printed in 2011. So just 1 year before it became known a little bit more about the origin of Scraps baseball cards. This has a write-up here. And in the write-up, it says the origin of these die cuts embossed players' busts is not known. And then further down it says, an early theory that they're issued by Scraps Tobacco has since been discounted after research indicated that there's never was such a company. So in 2011, they knew that this was misattributed to a company called Scraps Tobacco somehow when it was initially cataloged. Let me talk a little bit more about the set. The set highlights players from the 1887 World Series. And while they didn't call it World Series in those days, I think it is proper in reflecting back to speak of it as the World Series. Even Wikipedia lists it as the 1887 World Series. So versus the Detroit Wolverines and the St. Louis Browns. The Detroit Wolverines were victorious in that World Series, but this is a set that came out in 1888, highlighting 9 players from the St. Louis Browns and 9 players from the Detroit Wolverines. And what was really unique about this set is that it was a chromolithographic die cut, and it was the first ever bubblegum card. And we'll look a little more into that. Okay, so here is a site that I found that I'll link to in the description here. A Cincinnati Candy Company invented the baseball card. And they show this is the uncut pairs that were found in 2012 that show the original manufacturer, which is H.D. Smith and Company. It talks about five of the players being Hall of Famers: Thompson, Brothers, White, Hanlon, and Kaminsky. The cards were beautiful 2x3 full color lithographic printed in Germany. And it wasn't until 2012 that a collector noticed the HD and S Co tab on one of the 3 only known pairs in their original condition. They came up in the gum package. And here's a description that I'll just read verbatim. Prominent among our Cincinnati industries is to be found the well and favorable known house of H.D. Smith & Co., manufacturer of confectionery and chewing gum, making a specialty of the latter. A novel production of theirs this season is the St. Louis and Detroit Champion Baseball Gum, a piece of gum with a perfect lithograph picture of one of the champion 9 of the National League or American League on each piece. The pictures were made to order in Germany and are wonders in their way. That was an 1888 Cincinnati Enquirer article. So here are the types of busts that they did. They also did former presidents, and now here is what was formerly known as the scrap set. Some pictures here. And that leads me to 2 new cards in the collection. We have the 1887 champs, Jack Rowe from the Detroit Wolverines. We have Walter Lethem. Jack Rowe was part of a group of players that was referred to as the Big Four, with Dan Brothers, Hardy Richardson. Those two are Hall of Famers, and Deacon White, who were I think a feared group of 4 from the Detroit side. Jack Rowe had a really productive 12 years in baseball. I think, to try to put things in their context, he had a 28 career WAR, which is, shows that he had some real productivity during those years. They were blank backs, as they were put into scrapbooks. Here's an example of the scrap paper that people would paste these die cuts on. All right. And here we have the 1887 World Series champs, the Detroit Wolverines. And we'll focus in here on our Jack Rowe here. And then we have the challenging St. Louis Browns. Where exactly is Walter Letham? I'm not sure, but there's a couple of mustachioed fellas who just might be him. A couple other things about Walter, also known as Arlie, more popular known as Arlie Letham, is that he had something around a 30 career WAR. He had over 120 stolen bases in 1887 and something like 109 the following year. And if I had to guess, I'd guess it's one of these two guys here. One of these two fellas with the mustaches. Him or him. All right, and here is Arlie Letham in his coaching days for the New York Giants. He was known to run all about the third baseline to distract the players. And apparently, due to his antics, the coach's box needed to be introduced into baseball. So we have obviously his T206 here. We have his T205. He was also widely considered to be the funniest man in baseball. And then his T207. And I think it's interesting that this card features him seeming to be playing. And he apparently did play some baseball for the New York Giants in 1909. He had 2 plate appearances. And speaking of that, it says Arlie Letham, until recently, coacher of the New York Nationals, is the oldest man drawing pay under a player's contract in the major leagues. Before the present generation of ball players was born, he was a member of the champion team. Letham is 53 years old and still very active man. A little tidbit of this guy who had cards featuring him as a player in 1888, and then maybe the most prominent series of cards in pre-war of player cards around the T206 time. He's well represented. So in closing, I'll just say that these cards have really appealed to me since I noticed them some years ago. They are reminiscent to me of modern baseball cards in the sort of like die-cut inserts they remind me of. And of course, they are die-cut busts. Just really seemingly expertly done here. I mean, this is from 1888. I mean, that's just remarkable that this card looks so good and also is graded a 1. So these cards just like look to me like visual little gems. And I've had my eye on them for a long time. I haven't been able to get these cards until recently. So I'm really, really happy to have this. These cards kind of blow me away. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by. I appreciate it.